My name is Adam Cornford. I was born in Newcastle upon Tyne, in the far north of England, raised mostly in Cambridge, a lot further south. Came to the United States at the age of 19 as a student, got married, stayed, had a life. One other thing you might want to know about me is that I come from traditions of both science and poetry. My great-great-grandfather was Charles Darwin. My grandmother, Frances Darwin, Frances Cornford by marriage, was also a poet. Charles's grandfather, which you may not know, was a guy named Erasmus Darwin, who was a pioneering botanist and wrote an epic poem about botany called The Lives of the Plants, all written in heroic couplets. So he's, what, 6, 7 generations back, and I find myself preoccupied a great deal with science and also obviously with ecology. And the theme of my understanding, really, for the last several decades, really, but especially the last decade, as I've studied it and as science has advanced, is the fact that everything is communicating with everything else. That's not a poetic metaphor, that's a scientific fact. So I was asked to write a poem by a person called Gianni Dresser, who's a poet in the Bay Area where I used to live, to write about connection. So this is connected. Last of all, by air, ceaseless tide, running the channel of my windpipe in and out of the lungs' weedy pools, by microbial traffic filling every pore, billions living between my own big nucleated cells, those self-replicating precision machines, like mice in a factory. Vast migrations through my gut, two-way infiltrations of my skin, not just by the bacteria, whose genius is multitude and mistake, coating me inside and out, but viruses, bees of RNA pollen, bring news from everywhere, from back down my short species twig of the bushy tree of life, then past apes, lemurs, tree shrews, amphibians, fish, trilobites, segmented worms, to the archaea building towers around volcanic vents in the deep, hot crush of oceans 3 billion years ago. Enabling me to know this, the intricate lichen folds of my neocortex connect with a great invisible forest, language, the semiotic multiverse, through ears, eyes, and finger touch on this machine to planetary networks, and before all else the quantum fields that are every atom, boson, lepton I consist of, trading light and spreading out to the ever-vanishing horizon of the universe, with diminishing odds of me being anywhere but here, alone in a house in the desert. This, I don't know if you're familiar with the elemental odes of the great Chilean poet Pablo Neruda. He wrote a whole bunch of hundreds of poems to ordinary things. And I've always loved water. This started out as a song of praise to water, but because of what's happening in the world, it took a rather different direction. Origin, immanent aleph of life, colorless thief of the spectrum, translucent as spirit, we are inside you as you are inside us. Deep and deeper, sidereal blue, ocean's green malachite, repeated in the lungs and intestines. Primeval and mineral, you fill the womb where the embryo grows like the first archaea under a sky of blood. You fill our hearts, red moons that drive the double tide through our arteries, through dense mangroves of muscle to the shores of the skin. You replenish the green distilleries of rose and redwood. You ascend inside corn stalks like filaments of light and thread the oak's lichened labyrinth. You bathe the delicate feet of rice and the heron's claws as you travel always where the planet sends you. Water, you fall in trillions of vertical mirrors from cloud cordilleras. You spin down tiny cogwheels toothed with ice in winter's machine. Then you ascend again from morning leaves, from the map's mirrored veins, from the sea's laboring shoulders, from our breath. How could we ever exhaust you? How could we, your children, torture and scar your immense four-dimensional seraphic body? But that's what we're doing, water. All of us, trapped like you in capital's everyday circuits, passing you through the pipes of stupidity factories, shitting and sweating into your clarity the black ash of power, tarry greed sludge, trapping you in overheated sky as violent clouds, garrotting you with razor wire molecules, souring your currents with carbon-charred air so that your undulant, miles-wide oxygen gardens choke and the great reef cities become their own ghosts. No more. Now, water stands up in us, ocean ascendant on bone masts and spars, in arterial rigging. We water defy the iron-sheathed black snakes pumping their corpse tar into the mouths of deep springs, blinding the rivers. We water millions, they're chanting through cities. We water drain out of offices, warehouses, terminals, flood bare marble capitals, break in unceasing waves against the armored machines of the poisoners, the makers of desert. We water rise, we water rush over and around. We water break through and wash away.
Wow.
That's a prophecy in the William Blake sense. William Blake, who was my teacher and friend in eternity, said, if you go on so, the result will be so. That's a prophecy. This is a poem. It's all very watery, this reading. This is a poem called Sweat, for George Mattingly, a friend of mine. In these dog day afternoons, I trickle down myself, a tall candle in the sunshine, forgetting why it was lit and becoming a stalagmite in the blue cave of sky, a wet column of minerals contoured by time among a forest of others. But none of us here gulping down water, feeling it dilute again, the ancient ocean washing the shores of our cells, is a pillar of slow stone growing. Instead, it's time that sluices over our bodies as they stand or stride, rinsing us away while it cools flesh from the blaze of the billion suns inside us, leaving salt streaks like trajectories of tears or August shooting stars down the cheeks of the bodiless statues we become. I was living in the desert in Southern California, as was referred to at the beginning of this. And after an entire dry summer, it rained. This is what I heard. What the rain said. After so long dry, after fire floods washing forests to ash, erasing paradise, this numberless choral whisper of blessing. After so long unheard, the language foreign but familiar, the sound myriad momentary fingers delicately but persistently touching the earth, a grandmother's withered cheek asking, are you okay? Then as I drive under pigeon grey sky over hiss of wet desert dust in the wheeled herd, pumping yet more burnt breath into saturated air, slaps and slaps my glass face. Fool! Across the highway in shallow dips, runoff makes mirrors in which we still don't see ourselves, our scorched diminishing leafage of futures, our 12 years left, only pouring sky, a false forever. Outside now, as I gaze up, my own eyes wet with the unspeakable question, I speak in silence. Ancient, always new giver, how many more times will you return to us? Far off under traveling clouds, in the cities, the crowding young with their sun banners crest the avenues. To them, storm reiterates the signal given the tough dryland seeds. Now, grow now. Thank you.